Messi's entire Miami, and I was kind of proud being an African at that moment. Although we know we all love Messi, but I mean, Africa against one man. What can we say? Was quite an interesting weekend to see.
All right, give us the details then. Let's savor it.
All right, good morning and welcome to KAKAKI Sports. Well, this morning on the show we'll be talking about events that went down during the weekend, talking about beginning with, of course, the FIFA Club World Cup, where 32 teams across the world are competing for honors in the United States for the next 1 month. And our focus will be on Africa's representatives and their chances of going far in the competition. From there, we'll take a look at some transfer news as well as players and move around and their implication as the transfer window opens up in anticipation of the new season. Also on the radar for discussion is the announcement made by the Nigeria Premier League managers on the new date for the kickoff of the 2025-2026 season. Well, to get into all of that with me this morning, of course, I'm being joined by Francis Mujindo. Francis is a known face in the house. Francis, good morning and welcome to KAKAKI Sports.
Good morning, Brenda. Happy to be here as well.
All right, so quickly, the FIFA Club World Cup. I know you're excited, although your team, I don't know.
Shades on a Monday morning.
Well, let's get right into it. What was the exciting moment for you? 32 teams across the world competing for honors in the United States and Africa flying for representative in that tournament. Your take on Africa teams, particularly as they get into that tournament. Let's start with the Group A, Al Ahly, and the Group A yesterday game.
So generally,
Inter Miami.
In the early stages of the conception of this expanded Club World Cup, very honestly, I wasn't a fan. But now I see the idea of what an expanded Club World Cup is like, being able to bring multiple teams from the various continents to participate together, to be able to see how things are done in other leagues and how people play. And for me, it's very good for the development of global football. It's very good for the development of global football. And I'll tell you why. Although most of the teams competing from Africa are from North Africa, but generally...
Yes, I was going to say that. In Nigeria, you're not jealous?
Yeah, so one of the things I would want to point out is that generally, African teams really don't have the exposure during their pre-season/summer break to play with teams all over the world. And, we can tie down that down to maybe lack of funding or the ability to effectively plan logistics and other things that just make African teams very impaired to play. So this is a very, very good initiative. But it shows, you said, the North Africans are the teams that are there, but they're the best teams
African football.
But yeah, they're the best teams on the continent. So for me, it's a very, very great initiative, and particularly, you spoke about
Inter Miami.
The game.
I mean, 1-0 draw, goalless draw, giving them 1 point in the first game against Inter Miami.
But
with Messi in it.
Well, it necessarily doesn't mean Al Ahly are one of top 3, top 4 strongest teams in Africa. Although, they didn't win the CAF Champions League this season, but then there's no room for monopoly. But generally, aside, the competitive nature of the sport, you wanting to see the African teams win. For me, I want to point out a key aspect that is very, very important: the monetary side of things. Now, if you see the mouth-watering
rewards from the group stage, making it out of the group stage.
And even just participation. So Al Ahly, El Tunis, all those teams are guaranteed $9.5 million, as, participation, fee. Participation,
prize,
remuneration. So you can imagine what that does for, football in Africa, for development of talent, for investment in facilities. And this is why, we need to grow local, because I can imagine Eyimba, playing somewhere in Washington, D.C. Imagine the amount of Nigerians that would come to the stadium, the Niger Jollof that will be going around, the music. So we should do more, because there's a blend of cultures. The club football also fuels traveling. So there are a lot of benefits. So
so talking about African teams, like I said in my intro, we're going to be focusing mostly on African teams. For Group A, Al Ahly has kicked off that one, sharing that point there with, of course, Inter Miami. Group D games are still yet to be played, but then Esperance of Tunis, we're familiar with that name because we also had a Nigerian play there, just recently, talking about Anayo Iwala. But then, do you see Esperance getting out of this group? There's Chelsea as well in this group. And Chelsea have fan base in Africa. So they are playing with the tough teams in this group. What do you say Esperance getting out of this one?
I would even tell you that this group is a much more difficult group than Group A, because you have Flamengo. Flamengo are a very difficult team to play, top Brazilian side.
Brazilian side.
So for me, based on my permutations, Esperance would most likely come third in the group. They would most likely come third in the group. But this is a much more flexible situation that I could play out. Esperance would beat Los Angeles Football Club, take a draw with Flamengo, that's 4 points, and lose to Chelsea ideally. That gives them a
okay.
and this is not me trying to rule them out, because everything is possible. But then we just have to be very honest in football that when you face a very dominant side, no matter how well you try to manage or manage the game, when they come out fully to play against you, there's just really nothing you can do. And we saw that in the Conference League final. So.
All right, so also let's take a look at Group F as well. I told you 4 African teams are flying Africa's flag in this particular tournament, talking about the FIFA Club World Cup. And we'll be looking at their chances of progressing now that the tournament has kicked off proper. We saw games last night, the day before and yesterday, and other games will also be played today. And this is Group F. We also have Mamelodi Sundowns FC of South Africa. Your thoughts on Mamelodi Sundowns and chances, and give me predictions of this group. Do you see them making the also out of this?
I think with a vuvuzela blowing in America, Mamelodi Sundowns can make it. But I will tell you what.
Borussia Dortmund in it, and also Fluminense.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you what I know about Mamelodi Sundowns. Mamelodi Sundowns are a very transitional side. They play quick on the attack. And aside that, they have a lot of players with flair and just the ability to play, football, just very happy, without pressure. And it's a good thing that Mamelodi Sundowns are in this group, because I will tell you, European football is very, very regimented.
Yeah.
Too much tacticalization of football and, positioning, and, that we fail to allow just raw inclination of players to flow. And Mamelodi Sundowns are one team that love to enjoy themselves.
So quickly, before wrap up on this, why that SC also in Group G of the FIFA Club World Cup?
Difficult.
Al Ain of FC, also and Juventus also in this group. Manchester City.
A rejuvenated Manchester City.
All right, so do you see them making out of this one?
Well, yes.
What would be your prediction?
My ideal permutation, City, Juventus. But let me tell you an ideal situation. Al Ain of United
I don't like this. You're not even giving the African
team. No, but let me tell you my permutations. Wydad will beat Al Ain.
Okay.
Take it from me. Solid 3 points there. Wydad may beat Juve.
Juventus, yeah.
They may beat Juve because Juve are a bit shaky. But they've appointed a new manager. I think they're trying to balance the squad. But it's already late. I don't think they would be able to do their squad, realignment, before they kick off their first game. So Wydad may be able to take on Juventus. And yes, let's just hope for the best against the Pep Guardiola side.
All right, indeed. Fingers crossed for African teams right there as they go into, the group stages and perhaps hopes to progress. Francis didn't give African teams chance, but I'm hoping that they will prove him wrong as the tournaments progress. Talking about the FIFA Club World Cup. Now let's move away from that now to the transfer market, where it is also getting intense, interesting, and a lot of rumors flying around, beginning with Kevin De Bruyne. Finally, it's confirmed he's left Man City. He said he was leaving, and now we know where he is. He has landed to his destination, rather. He's at Napoli now. Kevin De Bruyne in Napoli, after losing out in the Scudetto this season, do you see them working at magic?
Yeah. No, so Napoli won the Scudetto by 1 point.
1 point, sorry. Without Victor Osimhen, yes, that was the talk actually. Now they won the Scudetto, these Highland champions. And so do you see Kevin De Bruyne taking that form from Manchester City into Napoli?
Well, I would shock people, and I would tell you no. Kevin is a great player. I mean, we saw what he did to City in his 10 years there. Very transformational player.
Lots of trophies.
He's the guy that you want to pass you the ball when you desperately need a goal. He's the kind of midfielder you want to take a shot when your attackers seem
relaxed.
Yes, not to be scoring. But now let me tell you, Kevin De Bruyne in the last 2-3 seasons, he has been plagued with injuries.
Yes,
he's barely available. His fitness levels are
dropped,
at an all-time low. But then again, that doesn't say that he wouldn't have.
Is it the age factor? Do you think the age factor is also crawling in?
I mean, you can't. Messi isn't, like he's older than him, and he doesn't get that injured. So it may necessarily not be an age. I mean, we saw an Inter side field, very old midfielders, even though it hurt them in the final. But those guys gave them, decent amount of games in the season, and even got them
to
fighting
the final,
for the Champions League and the Scudetto at the same time. So I necessarily don't think, but his fitness has been an issue recent time. But aside fitness issue, generally, Kevin De Bruyne's mentality is, needed in that sort of dressing room. There are certain players you would like to have in your dressing room. His expertise and the ability to help, people in the squad grow. But then aside that, I want to just say something that I think it's an issue of concern for me. No, not necessarily, because I think that we have seen a consistent pattern in Italy where Italian teams have learned to recycle
English players,
hand me down. So it's basically adopting I better pass my neighbor approach.
Okay.
Rather than develop young players, you say, oh, at least, maybe we have, just shining lights. We're better than, the French guys,
Oh,
so
right.
I think Italy has to move away from this mentality of signing down the old guns from Spain and
but the
England.
more they say, the more older, the better the experience. That's what they say. So maybe
old
hopefully
wine is always sweeter.
So, but anyways, when I was thinking about Napoli, I had Demola Lookman in my mind, and I said, oh, that was why I said, oh, they lost out.
This solidarity transfer market.
But again, still is talking about the transfer market. Another good transfer for most of the Manchester United fans that I've spoken to. But for you, do you think this is a good transfer? Talking about Martin Koya.
Definitely.
To Manchester United.
On the field, it's a good transfer. Matheus Cunha adds a level of unpredictability to Manchester United's side.
17 goals all season.
Yeah, has very good finishing. He's a player who also has very good balance. He can help you in transition. And I think someone like Bruno Fernandes would, be happy to
have him on the side, yeah.
Hit him off the line. Very confident player. But then there's a part of Matheus Cunha that isn't really spoken about, a part of his character trait. He doesn't have the mentality of a top player. He has attitude problems.
Okay.
And Ruben Amorim has been a manager who is very, very strong on maintaining culture and dressing room etiquette.
All right.
Now, would Martins Cunha fit into his style of discipline?
Well, don't answer that. We'll get to find out when the season kicks up. But now let's move on to transfer. Victor Osimhen, I mean, still in the news. He did it last season, last transfer window. Now we're in the summer. A lot of clubs gunning for his, his signature. But do you think Manchester United, Chelsea almost out of the race now. Juventus now coming on board. I even hear Barcelona also in the radar. But where do you want to see Osimhen after this? Because, I mean, the transfer windows, everybody's all eyes on him right now.
Where do I want to see him? I just want to see him at a club that values him, where he's able to play the best football and still remain as attractive as he is. Because the reason he's getting a lot of interest because he's an attractive player.
And on and off the pitch,
yes,
discipline.
And he has played, like very good football. But his move will be very dependent on the negotiating power of his agent and those who are managing him. And to Victor Osimhen, I say this morning, fire Roberto Calenda. He is not a really good agent. I think for a player as big as...
So you think the problem is his agent that is not making up his mind?
Well, I think he's not shielding him enough from,
too much
kind of scrutiny and exposure that he is. And I think that with management, helps you to just make your player focus on doing their work on the field and, taking care of the rest of their life. So yes, that the best move he will make would be up to how well Roberto Calenda can negotiate. All
right, to keep on, we're still watching Victor Osimhen and what moves he will make and perhaps the implication of his move as the transfer windows opens up properly. But now quickly, the NPFL, they've announced a new date for a new season. And we don't even know the teams that are going to complete the remaining 20 teams for next season. But the new date has been announced already. Your thoughts on Benga Legbe-led squad, management team, board for this announcement, and perhaps what should we expect as we wait for the remaining 4 teams to join the league?
So for someone who has been a very, very heavy critic, I must say that I applaud Benga Legbe on this initiative. This is the first time in recent years consecutively that we've had the league have a definite start, a commencement, and closing date, and it's very positive for the league. Now, I will tell you what this does for the league. It takes away every level of uncertainty. It gives teams the room to plan better, investors, scouts, and it's very good for the league that we have a lot of certainty. So I'm excited to see the teams that would promote. And we still have a contender that would, from the presidential